Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty Shannon White with another set of Steelers Global Perspective content. Shannon White, how you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon for you?
Yeah, Thursday for me. Everything's going well, and been out and about today, and I got home in plenty of time to do our podcast.
I love it. All right, well, it's OTAs continue. I think as we record this, and there'll be potentially more OTA have happened depending on when different shows come out. But OTA 6 has finished. OTA day 6, based on the Steelers website. It's interesting. You jumped on and told me about interesting formation you'd seen with the offensive line, and I feel like offensive line is something we're going to have to talk. As still YouTubers and podcasters, we're going to be talking about every week till the end of time. Which I know you love the round belly, so I can see the smile on your face about it, so that's all good. But you came to me and said there was an interesting formation and had I seen it, and I hadn't. So you want to tell me a little bit about that? Because I'd love to unpack what that might mean for the Steelers in 2024.
Well, you can't put a lot of credence behind the lineups they're using right now because they're trying to get a look at
big facts. Everyone listening, don't read into every single thing they do at OTAs. Big facts.
But they're trying some different configurations, and they come out yesterday with Dan Moore at left tackle and Samalu, left guard, and they had Nate Herbig at center, which he's been center every OTA. They've had James Daniels at right guard, and they had Fautanu at right tackle. And Fautanu's been playing a little of both sides. But I don't know if they're really trying to sell us and convince us that this is going to be the alignment, or they're trying to make, certain people earn some reps. But there is no way that Dan Moore should be starting at left tackle and Broderick Jones isn't even in the lineup because we know Broderick Jones is starting. And then to have Nate Herbig, here's the thing. If Nate Herbig was a real candidate to be the center, why wasn't he last year? Because Mason Cole struggled mightily. I mean, he could not even snap the ball.
Correct.
It got that bad, and he was getting blowed up, pushed into the backfield. If Nate Herbig was even an option, why did they not play him last year? That goes on the coaches. There's no way he got that much better from last year to these OTAs. Now, I know OTAs don't matter, and it's not real, but I think that they're kind of sending a message to Zack Frazier that you don't just because you're the second round draft pick and you're the most NFL ready plug and play guy, that doesn't mean you're just going to step in and be the starter. But see, Zack Frazier don't need any motivation.
Well, I was about to say to me, that is, they might like to do that. They made the same mistake with Broderick Jones.
Exactly.
Mistake. And Zack Frazier, I've known that mindset. I've been that. I feel like I've had that mindset when I've done things in my life myself. That probably actually don't help him. He's probably one of the players that don't help him. And secondly, not just that, I agree with you on the Herbig thing last year. If it was so good, why the frick didn't we see him on the field? Number 3, right? And I know it's heresy for everyone out there, and it's heresy for me. I love Frazier too. It's heresy, absolute heresy for you. But why spend a second-round draft pick on the center? Why didn't you just get Van Pran in the 3rd or the 4th round? I think you ended up going back in the 3rd, right? Why? What did you do? So, and I know that they have to get blokes to earn their spot. I know we'll probably get comments saying everyone's got to earn their spot. To me, if you're drafted in the first couple of rounds, you've half earned your spot. And then you rock up to minicamp and you do it. You've earned your spot. OTAs, put the pressure on him in camp where it's his spot to lose, right? That's pressure. That is actually simulating at center the pressure of what you have in the season. Every snap counts. As soon as you throw an errant snap, Zach, you want that. That's what you want, the pressure to perform, not the pressure to be able to perform. It's the wrong methodology. So hopefully it is a draft set that we're seeing. But I guess my other question to you is on the other statement I'll make and then, unpack it all. I'm going to fire it up. If I rock up to the week 3 grain from the other side of the world. I did this last time, and I watched Devlin Duck Hodges play quarterback, right? Cult, it was a cult phenomenon and all this crap.
Yeah.
It was against the Buffalo Bills on the last weeks of the season to make the playoffs. He was never winning that game. They got trounced, as far as I'm concerned. They were never going to win that game.
Yeah.
Tighter, but they were never in that game. And Mason should have played that game. It was, so obvious. But if I rock up and Broderick Jones is not on that starting left tackle, I know where my seats are. My seats are in clear yelling distance from behind. I am going to go nuts. I'll probably be kicked. I'll be kicked out of the stadium probably. I am not watching the Steelers lose because Dan Moore Jr. is the left tackle against Nick Bosa or Khalil Mack. I'm just not doing it. I can't. It's unacceptable.
Well, here's another thing is like Broderick Jones, I never heard any issues with his work ethic last year. And the more reps you get, the better. And it takes time to develop chemistry on an offensive line. Well, why send out a configuration that you're not going to start the season with? And they've already been playing Fautanu on both sides.
Yep.
I want to see him do the same with Broderick Jones. So why are you even wasting time with the starters by putting Dan Moore in there? Because he can only play one side. Now, Dan Moore is quickly becoming the Mason Rudolph of the offensive line. He's a great dude. They're talking about he's a great teammate. He's helping the young guys. Hey, that's all awesome. But he's just not quite good enough to be your long-term starter. And that's what we always said about Mason Rudolph. He was a really good backup. He had a ceiling, and he had to stay within his lane. And he wasn't a full-time starter, or not a long-time starter. The answer is your franchise quarterback. Well, Dan Moore's quickly becoming that guy. And if I say anything about him, it's like, well, you must not like Dan Moore. That's not the case. It's just you got 2 more qualified tackles that are very young, very athletic, that are way better than him and have way higher ceiling than he does. So I just don't see the point in wasting time with Moore and Herbig when you could have the guys who really need to be in there getting these reps.
And I also don't think there's any, maybe there's a niggling injury we don't know about. And it's fair for them to try different chemistry so they know what they've got, if someone goes down. I'm not disputing those things. But I do completely agree with what you just said there, which is the question in a way that you've raised in a back-ended part is, what's the chemistry between the likely Steelers offensive line, even if it's not necessarily the week 1 offensive line, but the likely offensive line for the majority of games and the future of this offensive line? Broderick needs time to work next to Siamalu. Fautanu needs time to work next to Daniels. And if they're using Fautanu as almost as much in OTAs as they're using Broderick Jones, and then Dan Moore just seems to be on the other side all the time, I don't understand that. We want Jones and Fautanu. It's an important year for Jones. We want them getting as much reps as possible. So, to me, I guess the question that I pose to you, Shannon, I'll answer it myself first, is, am I concerned a little bit in terms of where they're taking this offensive line, knowing the history as well of not playing Dotson on the side that he likes and playing Cole through it and starting Green when they had a few other options at that time, or not having options last year with Cole? Am I concerned? I kind of am, because the track record doesn't say a lot. The thing that's kind of, I guess, calming me down is OTAs. But my question to you is, are you concerned?
Well, they're obviously going in a lot of different directions. They told Spencer Anderson, he said early in the OTAs this week.
Oh, good point in bringing him up.
What?
I said, great point in bringing him up. I should have brought him up.
They're told him to focus on the interior. So he's not, he has tackle capabilities, but they told him they're going to focus him on both guard spots and center.
But see, that's silly to me as well, because he should be looking at right guard and center. I've said it. I know I've said this a million times. You've heard it a million times from me. He's a right guard. Let McCormick be the left guard. Why can't you just have these guys focus on being understudies at those positions? And you've got a guy that can play left, and you've got the guy that can play right. Yeah. I don't get it.
Well, that might be what they're doing, but by saying he's not going to be looked at, viewed as a tackle right now because they want him to focus on the interior, who does that give you at tackle? You have Dan Moore, who I do not believe will be the starter, and you have Dylan Cook. That's who you have at tackle right now.
They have one other bloke.
It might be Joey Fisher.
Yes.
I'll
pull it up.
He was from Fairmont State? No. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was somewhere like that. Yeah. I'm pulling it up.
But I think he's practice squad at best.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, regardless of who he is, where he's from.
What concerns me, Matty, is Isaac Samalu.
Tyler Beach from Wisconsin. That's the kid that they've got, Tyler Beach.
I thought they cut him.
Yeah, so they cut. That's right. So they cut him. Then they've got Devery Hamilton from Duke, Anderson Hardy up from your way, App State, and then it's Hardy from App State, and Cook, of course. Yeah, Hamilton and Hardy.
See, I mean, these guys ain't gonna be around. Let's just be honest. They're camp buddies. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna have to clip that. I'm gonna have to clip that for the future.
Isaac Samalu come out and he was talking about, Nate Herbig is really doing a good job at center, and it's going to be fun to watch him and Zack Frazier battle. And I'm like, really? I mean, are we really going to say this? That, again, Nate Herbig might beat out Zack Frazier. If Nate Herbig beats out Zack Frazier was a wasted second-round pick.
Correct.
And whoever didn't play Herbig last year should be fired. Because that is ridiculous. Here's the thing, Matty. We know that Pete Meyer likes to do zone blocking. Okay, every guy they got makes sense, including Zack Frazier. You know who doesn't make sense? Nate Herbig.
Yeah.
He's heavy. He's lumbersome. He has very little mobility. He's a power player.
Yep.
Now, if you want to have a strong anchor up the middle to withstand big nose tackles and pressure up the middle, he can do that. But his mobility is very limited.
Yep.
And he struggled at guard, and he will struggle at center.
Yep.
And everybody, they said last year, he's really not an option. He doesn't snap well. Daniel J., my podcast partner, on another podcast I do, he said he watched Herbig at training camp and said he was snapping the ball all over the place.
He was. He was shocking last year.
He's got 60 career center snaps.
Yep.
I mean, that's nothing. And how are we saying that he is competing with Zack Frazier, your second-round draft pick, the most NFL plug-and-play ready center, arguably in the class this year? I don't know how anybody could say that with a straight face. That concerns me.
No,
because of some of the stubbornness they've showed in the past, not wanting to play certain guys till 3 or 4 weeks into the season.
Well, I will correct you there. I'm remiss to ever do this. He's the most plug-and-play center. Barton was someone that would be moving into the interior. He's a much better prospect coming out with proven performance.
Well, I did say arguably, because some people would say Jackson Powers.
Well, I will disagree with them because he doesn't have the snap. He has 800 snaps versus Frazier's like 32 or 3,400 snaps. So, I know you think the same thing. But on the Herbig side of things as well, to me, he's a cut candidate. And people call me silly on that. But there are other players that are going to be cut. He is lumbersome. He doesn't really fit. Like if McCormick shows out like he already looks to be doing, and Spencer Anderson has a jump, and there's a pure center there that becomes available, or I don't think anyone's still signed Connor Williams. So even if his rehab's going really well going into the season, it's only going to be a week or two. And Spencer Anderson's shown something at center because I'm really glad that you brought that up from Daniel J because I thought Herbig's snapping was awful from what I saw in training camp last year, which is, I wondered whether he was going to get cut at some point last year or moved near the deadline. But you cut the guy right now and you make $4 million. There's a $4 million cap saving. They might need that money. That's huge money for what they got right now.
I mean, I know it's OTAs. And OTAs is when you experiment. When you're doing different packages and different personnel packages. So I'm trying not to read much into it, but it kind of irritated me when listening to Samalu talking about the training camp battle between, Nate Herbig and Zack Frazier. I'm just like, no, this can't be serious.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all we can hope is that Zack Frazier takes his rightful spot as the Steelers starting center. And I think I got to reiterate as we close out this segment, like, I don't want to see them just hand something to someone, but I feel like Frazier's earned the freaking thing, or like I do think that. That's what I believe. I think he's earned that from what he did at college. He's earned it from where he's been picked in the draft as the second round draft pick. Like, plenty second round draft picks are key players on their team. Like Pickens, key player on the team. Benton, key player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Juju Smith-Schuster, key player on the team. And I know the offensive line and defensive line, there's an extra importance there. But look at the freaking guy. I mean, the guy is like country strong. The guy has, you talk about his hands, and everyone talks about the measurements and all that. To me, when the thing that I noticed with his hands is when he sat on that couch next to Cam Hayward, and Cam Hayward's hands look small compared to Zack Frazier's. Like those things are freaking. And remember what I said to you when he hugged his parent and it took up like the whole part of his back,
covered the whole back,
right? Like massive. So yeah, I think that is what it is. But anyway, that's going to close out our segment on the crazy parts of the Steelers offensive line. Stay tuned for more Steelers Global Perspective content through the course of the weekend. I'm Matty P with Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.